students. I'm Madam Joyce from Educare TZ. I'm teaching biology, and today I'll be with you to discuss our topic, which is gaseous exchange and respiration. And here we are going to deal with our subtopic, which is respiration. So as usual, we have to call back on where we end on the previous session, whereby we terminate looking on the importance of Krebs cycle. So we just looking on the Krebs cycle, tukaona mpaka ile last stage of a Krebs cycle and how does it involved in the production of ATP in the living body. So in our today's session, we are going to start looking a new thing, and this is the fatty of pyruvic acid under anaerobic condition. Under anaerobic condition. Tukisema anaerobic condition, meaning that it's just a kind of respiration which does not require the presence of oxygen. So now let's see the effects of the pyruvic acid. Tuliona the effects of pyruvic acid kwenye aerobic condition. Ikiwa kwenye aerobic condition, meaning that there is a presence of oxygen. So ile pyruvic acid itaingia direct kwenye Krebs cycle, itaendelea kwenye production of ATP. Sasa what if within the body or within a living body there is absence of oxygen, and thus come the anaerobic condition. So now here we are saying that in the absence of oxygen, the principal product of glycolysis, which is pyruvate, enter a fermentation process. Kwa maana kwamba kukiwa hakuna uwepo wa oxygen, ile pyruvic acid iliyotengenezwa kwenye glycolysis process itaingia direct kwenda kwenye fermentation. So now we're going to look what is this fermentation. And we are saying that the organisms that do not use oxygen as the final proton and electron acceptor are known as the anaerobes. So wale organisms want about they respire anaerobically, meaning that they do not require the presence of oxygen. So they are known as the anaerobes. They are known as a anaerobes. And also we can say that this anaerobes in anaerobes, other less oxidizing substances such as sulfate ion, which is this one. This is sulfate ion. Sorry, it is just a typing error. So this is sulfur oxygen. This 4 should be here, and this 2 should be in upper position. And also we have the nitrate ion, and this nitrate ion, you can see this 3 must be positioned, this negative must be positioned in upper side of this nitrogen. Oxygen, and the 3 should be in this region. So sulfur and fumarate are used. So pale ambapo these organisms normally they are anaerobes, we are saying that they are less oxidizing substance. They use less oxidizing substance. For instance, this sulfur ion, nitrate ion, sulfur and fumarate are used so that to accomplish the process which is the fermentation. And also these terminal electron acceptor have smaller reduction potential than oxygen. So this means that less energy is released per oxidizing molecule. Kwa kuwa wanatumia zile ions ambazo tumeziona ni kina nitrate, kina sulfate, zile molecules zote zinasema kwamba they are less oxidizing molecule. So if they are less oxidizing molecule, they are probably to release less amount of energy compared to that process whereby there is presence of oxygen. And thereby, generally, anaerobic respiration is less efficient in energy production than in anaerobic respiration. Tunasema hii process ya anaerobic respiration is less efficient. Why is it less efficient? Because they tend to produce a less amount of energy compared to anaerobic respiration. That's why we can tell us that this anaerobic respiration is less efficient in energy production than aerobic respiration. Tutaenda kuangalia what kind of what amount of ATP does this anaerobic or does this anaerobes they tend to produce in each kind of fermentation. And now it is mainly used by prokaryotes that live in environment devoid of oxygen. So many anaerobic organisms are obligate anaerobes as they can only respire anaerobically and they die in the presence of oxygen. Tunasema kwamba tumesema hao organism ambao wanaweza kusurvive under the absence of oxygen, they are anaerobes. And most of these anaerobes, they are prokaryotes. And I hope now you know the examples of prokaryotes, including the bacteria. So all bacteria, they just survive in the absence of oxygen. And if the oxygen it is present, it can cause disappearance of these organisms, since they do not demand the presence of oxygen into their body so that they can produce ATP. And now here you can see that many anaerobes, the organism are obligate anaerobes, meaning that the word obligate meaning that these organisms, they can survive in the absence of oxygen. And keep it into your mind that examples of these anaerobes include the prokaryotes such as the bacteria. And also muscles do not respire anaerobically. Muscles do also respire anaerobically whenever there is deficiency or lack of oxygen at a particular tissue point. So apart from those prokaryotes, also the muscles which are found normally in many mammals, they just respire anaerobically, meaning that they respire in the absence of oxygen. And we are saying that there is deficiency or lack of oxygen at a particular tissue point. So these muscles, they can respire and produce energy within the muscle. So now let's see the categories of the anaerobic respiration. So here simply you can say that there are two categories of anaerobic respiration, which are the first one, which is alcoholic fermentation, and the second one, which is lactic acid fermentation. Remember, my students, this anaerobic condition, or all of this fermentation, they're just occurring in the prokaryotes, and also in case of mammals, this anaerobic respiration, they occur within their part of their body, specifically the muscles. That is the skeletal muscles, whereby the muscles that now they respire anaerobically, whether there is presence of oxygen or absence of oxygen. And now we have got two categories of anaerobic respiration. Now you can see we have alcoholic fermentation, and also we have lactic acid fermentation. So now let's look one after another, and how does each fermentation contribute to the production of ATP. And now let's see that starting with the alcoholic fermentation, which is the first category of anaerobic respiration, we can say that alcoholic fermentation is also called the phenol fermentation, which occurs in the cells such as a plant and yeast cells. We're going to see this in the figure 6.11. So what does that mean? Here we have said that hii alcoholic fermentation kwa jina lingine inaitwa ethanol fermentation. This one, ethanol fermentation. So if you have been asked into your exam or into any place that explain ethanol fermentation, don't be surprised. The same as the alcoholic fermentation. And here we have seen that this alcoholic fermentation or ethanol fermentation, normally it is occurring in the cells of living body, and specifically within the plant cells and within the yeast cells is whereby the ethanol fermentation is taking place. And now let's see this figure. This one is the figure 6.11, which shows the alcoholic fermentation pathway. We have seen that this alcoholic fermentation, tulisema kwamba kwenye zile fates za pyruvic acid ikiwa kwenye anaerobic condition ndipo ambapo itaenda kufanya fermentation. Now the first kind of fermentation that this pyruvic acid will undergo, it is alcoholic fermentation, normally taking place within the plant cell and in the yeast cell. So now you can see we have our two molecules of acid. I hope now you know where does these two molecules come from. Starting from, if you don't understand, make sure that you are passing through the session which explains the glycolysis, so you're going to understand where does this 2-pyruvic acid come from. So now here we have two molecules of pyruvic acid or pyruvate, and anaerobic condition, meaning that there is absence of oxygen. And now here you can see there is production of carbon dioxide, but also the NADH are used so that to produce the NAD positive. So two molecules of ethanols are produced. So my students, stay tuned so that all of this explanation, how does ethanols are involved in the production of ATP in the plant cell and the yeast cell, we're going to clarify more on the next session. So thank you for your time and for listening.